Welcome back to Lessons Learned. I'm Sherry and I'm here for Stash Timber's fourth and final panel idea. And if you look at my panel here, I've got some fabric hanging around it, but concentrate just on the panel for a moment. This is a Michael Miller, it's called Mon Ami panel, M-O-N-A-M-I. I think that's French. I don't know how to pronounce that correctly, but you can go on the Michael Miller website, michaelmillerfabrics.com, and find a free pattern idea for this particular panel. And that happens a lot, probably more times than not, that once a panel comes out, there is a free pattern or a purchase pattern for the designed panel in the fabric line. So this was a fabric line, happened to have a panel in it. There's a pattern. The pattern is a little complicated. They leave the panel as is with the 4 little squares on the top and the bottom. They leave it all intact, and then they add some Dresden plate blocks around it, but they're half blocks, so the straight side of the block is up against the edges of the panel. A lot of work. It was pretty. I wasn't crazy about it. I'm not against it. It's just I want something easier than that and something a little more formal. So that is an idea. If you have a panel, go out to the maker on their website and see if there's a free pattern that gives you a ready-made idea of what to do with it, and do that if you want. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. In my case, I'm going to center everything around the urn of flowers. The 4 smaller squares are going to get cut apart, and they are going to go, there's 8, so I can do 2 on each side. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to take and put a small square on the bottom corner, like at the end of the panel, and then the same thing on the short side. So you will have 2 of the small squares on the upper right corner, 2 in the upper left corner, 2 in the lower left, 2 in the lower right. Now, between those, I want to run 2 strips of fabric. And when those strips of fabric hit the corner, we are going to miter the corner. So we'll have some jazzy striped mitered corners. So like I said, I'm trying to maintain the formality of this style of design. I don't really want to add any more pinks in because of the flowers being so striking. I don't really want to take away from that. So I have auditioned up here on the board several different patterns of Stonehenge surfaces, and I do know that one of my stripes will be that black. So it is a little bit starker black than the black that's in the panel, but I think it'll be okay with the white mixed in there. Now the obvious choice would have been the background of the panel, which is kind of like looks like a grunge, looks like a black grunge. Problem is I don't have any black grunge. So I'm going to use the surfaces, and I'm going to use one of those other 3 colors there. Now, where the black stripe is, or strip, I have kind of more of a taupey one. And that's more of the color of the little gold, what I would call gold band around all of the other squares. We're going to lose some of that, especially with the small squares. So will there really be enough of that left in the panel to pull from to make that color make sense. So as I'm looking back and pondering more and more, the two strips on either side that are more light gray, for me, they're a little bit too blue of a gray, although they do have that taupe striping and veining through it. The one on the far upper left, I think, is what I'm going to go with. It has that formal look. It'll go good with the black. It will pull some colors out from the urn and the flowers, and possibly from that gold stripe. That's what I'm going to do. So hang tight. I will get this down and start cutting it apart and show you the next step. Okay, so I measured 3/4 of an inch, and I'm also going to trim this down to 3/4 of an inch all the way around. This part is also 3/4 of an inch, so this is garbage, and I will do the same thing on the other end because it's identical. And then after that, I will finish doing my 3/4 all the way around on the sides as well. Okay, so there it is all cut down. I'm very happy with the 3/4 inch here, because by the time I get that sewn in, that'll be a nice 1/2 inch dark gray border in there, and I think I want to keep that. These ones, I did trim them to 3/4 of an inch all the way around as well, but I think that's going to go away because I need a perfect square, and you know, to cut them apart, you know, there's just a little bit here, so I'm actually going to lose some of my gold in the sewing, but I think that's okay. I think I'll cut them apart, get them perfectly square, and then go from there to figure out what my strips should be. So let me do that. Alrighty, so what I did is I cut them apart and I left a 1/16 of an inch of the gray. So I'm hoping my seam allowance will be nice and neat and straight on that gold line, so that there's just a tiny bit peeping out. I may regret that. We'll see. But anyway, if you pay close attention, I have 4 squares that have a dark background and 4 that have a light background. Dark, light. And this is the configuration that I want to use, and then I'm putting my 2 fabrics here, and then they will meet and miter right here. So yeah, I'm just kind of doing it clockwise, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. I think it looks fine scattered like that. I tried 2 darks at the top, 2 lights on the side, and vice versa. It looked a little odd and too planned. So I'm just going to go with this. I think with the 2 strips of fabric between all of them, it'll all kind of meld together. That's my hope anyways. So my next step is to figure out how wide my 2 strips need to be, and if I have enough fabric to do it with. Okay, so hear me out. Over here on the right, you see my 2 strips that I've sewn together. Those needed to be 2 3/4 inches wide each, and then sewn together we'll make a 5-inch strip, which is what size the squares, the small squares are. They're 5 by 5. So that is going to make a 5-inch border on the outside of our quilt, all the way around in between the small squares. Now focus down on the right hand side. Let me see if I can, let me move the camera. Okay, so here you're seeing the excess of my strip, and I've just got this sitting on top of it. So this will be sewn here with a 1/4 inch, and then I'll make this meet at the edge here, and then when we get to the corner, we're going to miter these corners. So you're going to need to use your 45-inch on your ruler to cut this eventually, and I'll show you how to do that. But it'll look something like that. And then when you come back across this way from this side, you will have this black square here, and then the marble border here. So I think that's going to look pretty cool. So let me go ahead and make all of my strip sets that I need here to go all the way around my panel, and we'll come back and deal with these mitered corners. Okay, so a little more information on these strips. 2 3/4 inches wide sewn together makes 5. You can just cut 3 with the fabric of each of your colors for this particular project if you have this panel. I'll give all those measurements in the description box afterwards. And then I just want to show you for the corners, instead of doing the normal mitering that you do where you kind of do partial seams and all of that, and you use your 45-inch ruler and such, since we have to add that portion onto those little squares on the end, it just makes more sense to do a giant stitch and flip. So cut out 2 5-inch pieces like this, and then put them on top of each other like this, and then sew diagonally. And this is what I've done here. And you want to make sure that this intersection right here is matched up, especially if you got a stark color like this black that I have. So I put pins in there so that that would stay in place, and sewed right down the middle from one end to the other. And then you're going to cut off one. Let me get my ruler here and go ahead and cut it so you can see. Cut one side 1/4 inch away. Wait a minute, let's make sure we're doing this right. Okay, this is important. So my configuration is the black needs to be the square, not the gray. So I want to make sure that I cut it like this, which means I need to cut the other side, which is this side. So let me do that. I think that was what I was getting ready to do, but it was about to be a disaster, possibly. I don't know how I had it positioned. Okay, so there we go. There's your block that goes right in the corner. So this, I would just press it open, and then you'll have a nice little perfect corner on each of your corners. Just pay attention to what color is the color. You don't want to cut off the color that you need down here. So let me go ahead and get all of the borders together with these corners so you can see. Okay, so here we go. Here's what I did. After I made those 4 corners, I connected those to the 2 long pieces on each side. Then I connected the top 2 short pieces, the top and the bottom is what I meant to say, those 2 pieces with the little block on each end. That went on first in the bottom, and then the 2 sides all together. So what this effect did is it caused that black border to set behind the smaller blocks, and the smaller blocks moved forward, which makes it look like they're floating. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I just arranged them dark background, light background, dark background, light background in kind of a clockwise formation all the way around. So I'm happy with how this turned out. I think it's really cute. Yeah. So I hope with putting some of the measurements in the description box, you can take one of your panels and do this same sort of thing. It doesn't have to be the exact same thing, but the concept is there. So just take your panel and make it yours, and do something similar, and you'll have that nice little band going all the way around underneath your smaller blocks. Okay, so that is the end of this panel series for now, and we'll have more panel videos up in the future for sure, but this is the last one for Stash Timber 2023. I hope you've enjoyed this series. Go back and try some of the ideas with your panels, and I think you'll have a lot of fun. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.